Well, sorry about that. It's super windy here today and we are losing this signal. So let me just pick back up and tell you that it's important to have your pet tested every 12 months for heartworm disease and to keep him on heartworm preventive for all 12 months. Currently, we're not finding a natural preventive that really works effectively, and there isn't a vaccine yet available. So that's the scoop on the prevention. Where does heartworm disease occur? Everywhere. It is now in all 50 states. Our climate has changed. When we've had a lot of disasters, we've been so proactive getting animals that have lost their homes in disasters into new homes. But what that means is we have transported them to different parts of the country, and with them comes heartworm disease. Also, more than 50% of us now take vacations with the family dog. So our dogs are traveling to areas they haven't been in before. So it's so imperative, especially if you happen to be in one of those areas that doesn't seem to have any mosquitoes and veterinarians aren't recommending heartworm preventive. Make sure when you travel that you tell your veterinarian to and know if you're going to even go through any of the hot spots and prepare ahead of time. Whether you're a rescue worker or a trainer or somebody that's actually a transporter or just the dog mom and dad who's traveling with your pet, it's so important you have your pet tested before you travel so that he's not taking the disease with him, so that he won't get sick on the road, and also so that you know, he's on the preventive, because it's important to keep them tested in order to keep them on the preventive. So it's just so very, very important. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the treatment. If it does happen that your pet or one in your care or somebody you know, like Annie, who's in the blog that I told you about earlier, ends up with heartworm disease, they need to be treated. And the treatment, traditional treatment, generally consists of several imidazole injections that it's injected deep into the lumbar muscles. The initial stage is to try to kill off all the adult worms, and then they tackle the babies after that, and they have, you know, the dog go on a preventive. But the big deal is during these injections and for the months following, sometimes as long as 4 to 6 months, the dog has to remain very, very still. Because as the worms are disintegrating and dying off, if the dog gets very active, they can actually clog in the muscles, in the vessels, excuse me, in the blood vessels, in the heart, in the lungs, and that can be as detrimental to the dog as the worms themselves. So it's imperative, and that's why it's so great. I was so happy to share this story earlier on the written blog of the Animal Protective Foundation in Glenville, New York. They had 2 dogs come in towards the end of last year that were heartworm positive, and this was kind of a new thing for them to tackle it, and they did it just so wonderfully, got the dogs treated and into forever homes, and those dogs could not be happier now. Just like though with the preventive, Dr. Morgan kind of has to, you know, confess on this, that there really isn't a natural treatment per se. What is considered a more natural treatment is what's called the slow kill method, where rather than those injections that kill off the worms a little bit more quickly, there's another process in which the dog is given doxycycline. It's an antibiotic. And the reason for that is the heart muscle actually has a bacteria that has formed sort of or I should maybe say the worms have formed a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria in the heart. They're kind of interdependent on each other. And what the doxycycline does is kills off that bacteria, you know, during the period the dog is taking it. And that then causes the worms to, you know, more slowly die, and they then get the dog on the preventive. And this is a longer term treatment, but generally within a year to 18 months, the dogs, if they don't get reinfected, are considered heartworm negative. So there is more than one method of treatment, but, you know, one takes a super long time, one takes still a relatively long time, 4 to 6 months, and the pets really need to decrease their activity level. The ones that get the imidazole injections actually initially their activity level is decreased just because of the way they're feeling. They're pretty low energy. They sleep for a few days, so that's kind of helpful initially. They may also be very sore at the injection site. Annie, who I keep talking about, the Vizsla, her mom Emily said, yeah, you know, for the day, that day of and the few days following, she was actually very uncomfortable. So they often need to give pain meds to get them through that. But then suddenly, as they're starting to feel better, their energy kicks in, and that's when it's so important that you keep those doggies going through the treatment calm, so that those dying off, dissolving, disintegrating worms don't get caught in blood vessels, the heart, the lungs, or any body parts, because it can result in, you know, multiple organ failure. So how do you keep a pet calm? Well, you know, the chew toys, stuff them with food. Some dogs do have to be crated. You can take them for short walks, just really to do potty breaks, but no real exercise. So, you know, maybe practice some training techniques, practice the sits and downs just, you know, a few times to keep their bodies and mind active. Zen out with your pooch with, you know, some peaceful music, or get some of those doggy pheromones that kind of make them calm. You know, I'm always touting Earth Heart aromatherapies for dogs. So that might be something else that helps a little bit to take the edge off and keep them calmer. But, you know, it's a great opportunity for you just to be in the moment and sit with the dog, chill, pet him or her, you know, glance up at a cloud formation or the evening stars at night, you know, even do your work on your laptop sitting on the floor next to your pup. But, you know, do your best to keep them calm and quiet. Snuggling is always a great option as well. And while they're going through treatment, you know, Pet Safety Crusader here is going to tell you to be on the lookout for some things. So obviously, this is where your whole head to tail checkup and knowing how to check vitals is just so imperative, so that you can quickly identify if the gums aren't that nice bubblegum pink we like to see, if, you know, a fever has spiked, if breathing isn't what you would consider normal for that pet. The more you know what's normal for your dog, the more quickly you can determine when something's not quite right. And even when an animal's going through treatment, they may not be normal per se, but you've got a baseline normal for that treatment. And when something changes from that, you want to act about it quickly. If all is going well, probably about 4 months, when those deadly worms are eradicated, you'll need to, you know, get on the preventive and continue it for the doggy's lifetime. Now, some of you may be worried, if one dog has heartworm, can you give it to another dog in the family? Good news is no. However, if one dog has heartworm and isn't treated for it, obviously a mosquito can bite him and then infect other dogs. And I think when we went off air here a little bit ago, I lost that sequence there, but that's what I just wanted to explain to you briefly, is that a mosquito will take the so-called disgusting blood meal from, I don't know, a coyote, a fox, any animal that actually has heartworm disease. And he sucks up those microphilia, those baby worms. And then they turn into larvae. In a period of about, from that blood meal, they turn it into, excuse me, let me back that up. They suck up the blood meal, and in about 10 days to 2 weeks, they turn into larvae. And then the next time that mosquito bites your dog, in the wound, he basically injects those larvae. He leaves them on the, you know, the skin or the surface, or literally injects them, and they go into the wound site. The larvae, you know, then take about 6 months to turn into adult worms. So that's when the problems start, and they get, you know, up to a foot long, and they literally look like spaghetti. So that's why for so long after your pet has been bitten, it's important to stay on the preventive and also to do that testing, because it is a pretty long period of time in which any symptoms will probably not be visible at all to you for your dog. And, you know, like everything else, we want to catch stuff early. So in conclusion, the American Heartworm Society always says to think 12. Have your dog tested every 12 months for heartworm disease. It's a simple blood test, and keep him on the preventive for 12 months. Until we can find a more natural method to prevent and to treat, You know, this is something we need to do, and I, like so many of you, don't want to put insecticides and vaccinations and, you know, any chemicals in or on my dog more than I need to. But for right now, especially being in the South and the Southeast, however, like I mentioned, heartworm has been now found in all 50 states. My little buddy Haiku, who's, well, he's not even snoozing. He left his snoozing spot, but he takes his heartworm pill on the first of every month. It's a chewable. He thinks it's a treat. And even though I do worry about some of the chemicals, I do want to keep him heartworm free. So thank you guys again for listening. What we discussed is briefly on page 237 in the Pet Safety Bible, but please go to the blog. I'll repost it here on part 2 since we lost the connection. There's a lot more details about it, and you have to hear beautiful Annie's story about how she came into the shelter, was diagnosed positive with heartworm disease, but now has her happily ever after. Take care, and please keep your pets heartworm free too. Bye-bye for now.